Deborah, this is Booking with Deborah. Today's video is my June TBR. Hopefully in the next few weeks I will be doing a video with my May reading wrap up, but as we're already in June I wanted to share my reading plans for the month ahead. There is a bit of a theme to some of the books that I'm going to be reading in June, and I'm also going to be doing my first buddy reads, which I'm really excited about. This month will be my first opportunity to do buddy reads with fellow booktubers. So I'll just start by going through a list of the buddy reads that I'm planning to do. The first buddy read that I am planning on is The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. One woman's struggle for fulfilment in a society pivoting between the traditional and the modern. Escaping from an abusive marriage, 17-year-old Lakshmi makes her way alone to the vibrant 1950s pink city of Jaipur. There she becomes the most highly requested henna artist to wealthy women of the upper class, but trusted with the secrets of the wealthy, she can never reveal her own. And I'm going to be buddy reading that with Becky at Teacup, the storyteller. And this book will also meet my Read Around the World challenge for India, so I'm looking forward to that. The next buddy read that I think we're doing in June is this one, and that is A Fruit of the Drunken Tree by Ingrid Rojas Contreras. And this is also a book that will meet my Read Around the World challenge for Columbia, and I'm reading this one with Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I'm just going to read the blurb at the back of this one. 7-year-old Chula lives a carefree life in her gated community in Bogota, but the threat of kidnappings, car bombs and assassinations hover just outside her walls, where the godlike drug lord Pablo Escobar reigns, capturing the attention of the nation. When her mother hires Petrona, a live-in maid from the city's guerrilla-occupied slum, Chula makes it her mission to understand Petrona's mysterious ways. Petrona is a young woman crumbling under the burden of providing for her wealthy family as the riptide of her first love pulls her in the opposite direction. As both girls' families scramble to maintain their stability amid the rapidly escalating conflict, Petrona and Chula find themselves entangled in a web of secrecy. And this book is inspired, I believe, by the author's own sort of a life experience. So I think that's going to be an interesting book. I don't think I've read a book based in Colombia before. And then my final buddy read is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So this is going to be my next classic read, and I am buddy reading this with Johanna at Serene Sloth. This is the story of a young man who sells his soul for eternal youth and beauty, and is described as a classic work of gothic horror. I don't normally read horror books, so this is going to be an interesting classic for me to read next. And this book will also be part of my themed reading for this month, which is to read books to celebrate Pride, as June is Pride Month here in the UK. I will link in the description box down below all of the channels for the people that I am buddy reading with in June, so please go and check out their channels. So as I said, this is my first opportunity to do buddy reads with fellow booktubers, so I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you to those people who have organised buddy reads with me, and I thought I'd just go for it rather than just doing one. I'd do 3 in 1 month, so that was going to be good fun. The next selection of books that I'm going to be reading in June are all for Pride Month. As I've just said, Pride Month is celebrated here in the UK in June, and the first of those books I'm actually doing as part of a read along with the LGBTQ plus books in translation, and I will link Jen's channel and her announcement video in the description box down below if you're interested to find out more about that and you'd like to come and join in reading LGBTQ plus books in translation. I think they pick different books every couple of months. The next book is going to be read between June and July, so I may start it in June and I may finish it in July. But the chosen book for June and July for the read-along is Not Before Sundown by Johanna Sinisalo, and it is translated from the Finnish by Herbert Lomas. So this book will also help me towards my Read Around the World challenge for Finland. This book has one of the most incredible blurbs I've seen for a while on a book, and I think that was what really appealed to everybody. In other countries, this book is published under a different name, and I think it's called Troll, a Love Story or something like that, because it is actually all about a troll. So this story is about a man called Mikhail who finds a troll, as shown on this small image here, that exudes pheromones that have an aphrodisiac effect on people. However, it says on the back here that what Mikhail fails to learn with tragic consequences is that Pessy the troll is the interpreter of man's darkest and most forbidden desires. So this book sounds absolutely fascinating, and I'm really interested to see what it's all going to be about. And then my next themed book for Pride Month that I'm going to be listening to on audiobook is Young Mungo by Douglas Stuart. A portrayal of working class life and the story of dangerous first love of two young men. Growing up in a housing estate in Glasgow, Mungo a Protestant and James a Catholic. They should be sworn enemies, yet against all odds they become best friends and fall in love. Young Mungo is a gripping and revealing story about the bounds of masculinity, the divisions of sectarianism, the violence faced by many queer people, and the dangers of loving someone too much. I am aware, having seen reviews from other booktubers, that this is quite a hard-hitting read with some really difficult themes, but I think it sounds like it's going to be quite an important book, so I'm interested to see what that's all about. And then my next planned read for Pride in June is Beyond the Gender Binary by Alok Vaid-Menon. This is quite a short read that challenges the world to see gender not as black and white but in full colour, and it draws on the author's own experiences as a gender non-conforming artist. And then my final read that I'm planning to do for Pride, if I can get it out of the library, because I've had it on hold now for about a month and it said it's on its way to me, but it still hasn't arrived at my local library, so hopefully I will get it in time. But if not, and I don't manage to read it all in June, I will carry it over into July. But that is also a non-fiction book which I'm really looking forward to reading. That is Pride, the story of the LGBTQ equality movement by Matthew Todd. Pride explores the history of the LGBT movement, including events such as Stonewall, the global explosion in Pride parades, and is a comprehensive account of the ongoing challenges faced by the LGBTQ plus community. So this sounds like it's going to be a really interesting non-fiction book for me, and it's something that I feel like I'd really like to get a kind of broader understanding, really. I'm not sure if it is just based on sort of history and events in the UK, or whether it covers a wider world perspective, but obviously I will be able to share that with you in my wrap-up. And then the final theme for my June reading is for Windrush Day. So Windrush Day is a day in the UK which is on the 22nd of June, and it's a day of remembrance and also a day of celebration which recognises when 500 migrants came to the UK from the Caribbean and arrived at Tilbury Docks in Essex in 1948. It was not the first ship of its kind that came to the UK with Caribbean immigrants on board, but it was seen as a really significant event. It was a very sort of media hyped event, and it's also recognised as being the sort of start of the changing of the cultural landscape within the UK at that time. So those that came on the Windrush ship, and people that came after them and their children, many of whom were born in the UK, are often identified as being called the Windrush generation here in the UK. Sadly, many of those people did not quite get the welcome in the UK that they expected and that they hoped to receive, and many people experienced discrimination, prejudice and racism. And many years later, many of those people that came to the UK found themselves face to face with what is described as the government's hostile environment, and that led on to the Windrush scandal, which was obviously a huge scandal. If the Windrush generation is something that you don't feel you really know much about and you would really like to find out more about it, there is a lot of non-fiction books around, but one of the things that I found most insightful was a documentary done by the BBC a few years ago, which was presented by David Olusoga, who is one of my favourite presenters in the UK. I love all of his work. It really was a very quite comprehensive history from the very beginning of the Windrush movement right up to giving you a really quite good understanding of the Windrush scandal and what that was all about. So I will put a link to that documentary in the description box down below for anybody who would like to go away and find out more. The first book that I'm planning to read is a modern classic, and you will have probably seen this in my most recent book haul, and that is To Sir With Love by E.R. Braithwaite. This book was first published in 1959. So the main character in this book is Rick Braithwaite, who is a black man from British Guyana, who in 1945 ends up teaching in a really kind of tough and often described as a kind of rough East End London secondary school. Even though he is a trained and qualified engineer with years of experience in the RAF, he finds himself unable to find employment in those fields in the UK at that time, so ends up taking this teaching role. And this novel, I believe, is all about his attempts to instill sort of discipline and within the pupils, within the school, but also deal with the prejudice that he experiences at that time living in the UK. And then my next planned read for Windrush Day is This Lovely City by Louise Hare. London 1950, with the war over and London still rebuilding, jazz musician Laurie Matthews has answered England's call for labour, arriving from Jamaica aboard Empire Windrush. One morning, while crossing a misty common, he makes a terrible discovery. As the local community rallies, fingers of blame point at those who were recently welcomed with open arms. And then the final book that I am planning to read for Windrush Day is a middle grade book, that is Windrush Child by Benjamin Zephaniah. This story is about Leonard, who travels from Jamaica to Manchester in 1957 with his mum after his father went to the UK on the Windrush. This is a coming-of-age story about the experiences of being young and a young black child growing up in the UK. And my understanding of this book is a lot of this book draws on either the author's own experiences or the real-life experiences of people who the author knows. So a lot of it is based on kind of real-life events, but in a kind of combined way into a story. Those are all the books that I am planning to read in June. So I've got Buddy Reads, I'm reading for Pride, and I'm also reading for the Windrush Day, and quite a few books I'm reading will also meet different countries for my Read Around the World challenge, so hopefully it's going to be a good reading month. Do you have any reading plans for June? If so, I'd be really interested to hear in the comments down below what you are planning to read. And if you've read any of these books, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on those books also in the comments down below. I hope you're all keeping really well. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye!